Nick Saban has entered the fold in Tuscaloosa and is speaking to the media right now. Listen in.
And, you know, our program here at Alabama, you know, Tua has probably had as much of an impact on our program here as any player that we've ever had. And I'm not just talking about as a football player. He's got great character. He's a great leader. He's done a wonderful job in the classroom. There's a spirit about him that has impacted myself and everybody around him in a very, very positive way. He's had great accomplishments on the field, but you probably don't really fully understand the significance of the contributions that he's made off the field with his teammates and the people who are around him every day. An unbelievable positive spirit. He's helped us, you know, continue the streak to 9 of 11 win seasons. He's won a national championship here with his performance. He's won an SEC championship, and he's also helped us to extend the streak of being in the top 10 to 12 seasons. And I don't think his contribution is not appreciated because it's been outstanding. He's on course to graduate. I think he needs like 17 credits or something like that to graduate. I don't think he's ever been in my office one time the whole time he's been here for anything but something that's positive in terms of helping him or, you know, helping the rest of our program. I know this has been a very difficult decision for him and his family. Our role in that is not to make a decision, but only to provide all the information that we can, whether it's physical, medical, spiritual, in every way that we can, you know, to help any of our players, you know, make their decision. And I know some of the guys have announced on social media what they're going to do. There'll probably be a couple other announcements forthcoming, but I think it's fitting that a guy that has had such an impact, you know, on our program, on college football, that we have a press conference here today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tua, and he can announce his decision. Thank you.
Well, good morning. Thank you all for coming today. I've had a difficult time making this decision about my future. But first and foremost, I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for this opportunity to stand before you all with my decision. My love for the University of Alabama, our coaches, our fans, and my teammates has made this especially hard for me. I have had the advice and counsel of my parents, my family, and coaches in going through a thorough analysis of the alternatives. And without further ado, with lots of prayers, thoughts, and guidance, I have decided that I will be declaring and entering the 2020 NFL Draft. My 3 years at the University of Alabama have been the epitome of a roller coaster. I've had a fair share of ups, of many ups and a handful of downs, and I couldn't be happier to know that with all the success and failures I've had here at the university, it has prepared me for life in general. I can't express how grateful I am to have attended the greatest school in college. But the biggest thing I remember with my time here are the memories that I've made with all my friends, family, and loved ones. I want to honor and thank Coach Saban for allowing me the chance to play for him. I'm forever grateful that I not only got to build a great relationship with someone like him, but I also got to play for him. I'd like to thank Coach Sark and our entire coaching staff for helping me enhance my skills this year. And I'd like to thank Jeff Allen and his athletic training staff for the first-class treatment they've given and shown me and my family. I'd like to thank Josh Maxson and his crew for helping me build my brand here. And to all those behind the scenes that don't get enough credit, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'd like to extend my appreciation also to John Deaver and our academic advisors for the help and support they've given me, and to our AD, Greg Byrne. Thank you for the many talks we've had and for the tremendous support you've given me. To my teammates, thank you for the lifetime worth of memories and lessons. Thank you for the laughs, the love, and all the hard work that came with helping me shape me to be who I am today. I'm going to miss you all from the starting lineup to the scout team. To Bama Nation, I'd just like to thank you all for tremendous 3 years of support, that you've given me and my family, and thank you for taking our family in as your own. To my parents, thank you for giving me everything. Thank you for everything, and thank you guys for instilling everything you had in me, and thank you for your continuous love, support, and especially prayers. I'd like to thank my family and everyone who's been involved in this process. Like I've heard my parents say many times, it takes a village to raise a child, so thank you all. As I wrap things up, there will still be a Tagovailoa here playing football, and it's my little brother Talia. And I plan to stay close to the university and always be a part of the Alabama family. So I'd like to leave you all with this. From one of my favorite Tim McGraw songs, when you get where you're going, don't forget, turn back around and help the next one in line. Always stay humble and kind. Thank you all so, so much. God bless and Roll Tide.
Thanks, Stu. At this time, Coach is going to dismiss. And
all right, you heard it here live on CBS Sports HQ. Tua Tagovailoa entering the 2020 NFL Draft to the surprise of some. We do have a threesome of guests to get to, including Pete Prisco to my left. We also have Ryan Wilson, our mock draft expert, and Barrett Salih, who's been covering Tua all throughout his college career, doing a great job covering college football. But now he's moving on to the NFL, so we got to start with you, Ryan, and your latest mock draft, which you came up with today. You had Tua going number 5 to the Miami Dolphins. You had a feeling this was going to happen.
Yeah, I spoke to a source this morning who mentioned that Tua's father and Saban met for 2 hours this morning, and that's sort of when they came to that decision. There were also concerns from the source that the insurance policies that had been promised to Tua weren't going to work out because of potentially the hip injury. So that's a concern if you're looking down the road. NFL teams with the medicals will certainly take care of that and sort that out. But exactly, Chris, I had him going number 5 to the Dolphins. This is best case for who looked for the longest time that he wasn't going to be there.
We're going to look back in and listen in to the press conference as Tua Tagovailoa has retaken the mic. He's now answering questions after declaring for the NFL Draft.
Guidance from my family. We prayed a lot about it, and this is a decision that I'm going to have to live with, and so I made it, and I mean, I'm good with it.
we're in the middle of that.
Tua, you went to New York this weekend to kind of get an evaluation. What kind of feedback did you hear from doctors there, and what did that kind of tell you about the foreseeable future?
Well, I don't think any of the doctors can tell, the foreseeable future. None of the guys rehabbing me can tell that. From what they've seen, in New York, everything looks good, but you can't really tell until the 3-month mark or the 4-month mark, So that's the gauge on all of that.
We're on the left, John.
Another feedback question. What did you hear from NFL types, NFL teams, executives, scouts, whatever, about, because it's kind of a unique situation to be in?
Yeah, it's a unique situation for sure. With my hip, I mean, a lot of the guys, the general managers, the owners that I've got to talk to kind of said the same thing. They kind of look at this injury as like a knee injury almost, although it's not. In a way that, okay, are we going to take a chance on this guy, or would he be able to, possibly do a pro day before the draft and whatnot? And really the biggest thing they want to do is just see that we can, move and we can just be back to how we were playing prior to the injury.
We're on the side of Tony.
How much, if at all, did you get to talk to, the fellow juniors in your class, and what did you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, we all got to talk. A lot of their decisions were based off, whether they played good in this past game or not. But I mean, we all pretty much knew what everyone was going to do, kind of prior to the game, but it wasn't set. And I mean, they don't. A lot of guys in my class, we don't have to share any of that information, But I mean, a lot of them have made their decisions pretty clear, up to this point. So.
In the middle with Michael.
Now that you're leaving, what are your thoughts on the quarterback competition that'll be coming in the fall?
Yeah, it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. They got another guy coming in, Bryce Young. He looked really good at his All-American game. I mean, if you love competition, now's the best time for it, for Matt Jones, for my little brother, and for that Bryce Young, the incoming freshman. So,
Tua, you talked about the decision and the announcement, but now this is where you motivate, you challenge yourself, you test your heart. How gratifying is it now to be on your shoulders to make or break the next step?
Well, these kind of things don't really take the doctors. They don't really take myself. It pretty much boils down to one thing, and I think that's faith. It boils down to that. And coming from a family that has a lot of it, I'm definitely willing to take that challenge.
Back here with Chase.
Tua, was the supplemental draft in the summer part of your consideration process?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I mean, if that was part of my process, I probably would have just said I was going to stay here at the University of Alabama. So it wasn't really a thought.
Middle here with Joe.
Tua, first off, congratulations on the incredible career.
Thank you.
Could you explain more how faith went into this decision that you decided to make?
Yeah, well, we seek guidance from, a good amount of pastors. My dad is really good friends with Pastor Chris, Church of the Highlands. I got to seek counsel from, our pastors back home, and then also Pastor Perry Stone. So, I mean, they pretty much all had the same thing, follow your heart. And then they also had, stories to kind of align with what they were trying to share with me too. So.
Back here with Ryan.
You mentioned talking to NFL general managers. Do you have an estimate how many you spoke with?
Probably too many. There's just a good amount,
Anyone else have any questions? Middle here with Alex.
You mentioned about how difficult this decision was. Mm-hmm. Just how late in this process were you kind of going back and forth, and was there like a day, whether it was last Friday after the doctor visit or what, that you decided you made this decision final?
Yeah, it was a really hard decision. I mean, going through my rehab and then with my parents, talking to my parents about it. I mean, it's been tough. I have been going back and forth, because, I mean, some things make sense, some others don't. I mean, I just had to factor in a lot of things, as to why I should either stay or why I should leave. But, I mean, we set a date just so we could kind of get everything over with, and we're not, continue to play but if I do stay, this could happen. But if I do go, this could happen. So now that it's done, I mean, don't got to worry about it too much anymore.
Over here with John.
Do you, from everything you've heard and everything you believe, do you feel like you'll be a pretty high first-round pick, and would you have gone if you didn't expect that?
Yeah, I don't think I could tell you that. I don't think any of the teams can tell you that. It really depends on how the doctors how the doctor's report goes. With my MRI, my X-rays at the 3-month mark. But then again, I think what factors into this decision too was our faith, and I mean it's a leap of it.
And you follow up. You mentioned this is a roller coaster ride for a young guy from Hawaii to come in and kind of accomplish what you did at Alabama. How would you describe that, and just the transition you had culturally, football-wise, everything becoming such a big name?
Yeah, well, culturally, it was different. Like I said, probably my freshman year and my sophomore year, culturally they just fry everything over here. So it's like it's different. I'd say it's been a roller coaster because I've got to see the spectrum of both sides, having a lot of success, winning a national championship, losing a national championship, going through adversity, coming back from it, continuing to go through it. So it's just been, a mixture of emotions. But, I mean, for me, I think coming to a place like this has helped me, has helped set me up to be in the best position to become successful later in life, too.
All right, two more. Chris Walsh and then Mike.
Just to follow up on that, How are you emotionally right now? I mean, are you happy, overwhelmed, scared?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel right now. Yeah, I'm content with the decision that I've made. You know, it's more so what's next. That's kind of what I'm thinking of, like what's next with this process.
All right, Matt, over here.
Two quick questions for you. So first of all, how much did you meet with Coach Saban over the course of the last couple of days here?
Yeah, I met with him a lot, probably 5 times, you know, within this past week. So it's been pretty good.
So based on the updated feedback that you've gotten, are you expecting right now to be ready for the start of football season, be able to play at that point? Are you optimistic about that?
About playing football?
Yeah, about being available to play at the beginning of football season.
Yeah, I'm optimistic that I'll be able to play, you know, this upcoming season. But you know, I think for me right now, you know, I'm more so worried about, you know, getting better as soon as possible, see what I can do, you know, if I can do a pro day, if I can't do a pro day. I mean, and then, you know, it's really all dependent on what the doctors, you know, have to say to the teams and, you know, what the results come back in as.
Last one here in the middle of Michael.
I know you said you went back and forth on your decision. Was there any point where you had made up your mind and you were going to come back and change that decision?
Well, I mean, seeking guidance from my family, you know, my parents. I mean, we've had a lot of family talks, you know, about this, and I mean, I think this is the best thing for me and my family to do. So that's why I made the decision. All right, thank you guys. One last time, God bless. Road Tide.
I'm Chris Hassel with Pete Prisco. We have our mock draft analyst Ryan Wilson and Barrett Sallee with us as Tua Tagovailoa announces he's going to forgo his senior season and enter the 2020 NFL draft. He said that he's not sure if he's going to be a high first-round pick. It's a leap of faith going to the NFL. But Ryan, you just put out your very latest mock draft, and you have him as a top 5 pick going number 5 to the Miami Dolphins. How do you evaluate him right now?
I think Tua touched on it, Chris. He does not know right now. It's 3 months out from the injury when he'll be able to find out, when the doctors will go back in and evaluate just how that hip has healed after the surgery. And that's the big if. Tua alluded to it. The NFL general manager he spoke with alluded to it. And that's what we're waiting for. In the meantime, this is the first time since November 12th that I've had Tua go in a mock draft. He was hurt the next week. And now this is best case scenario for the Dolphins should Tua's medicals come back clean, because it looked like they were tanking for Tua early in the season. They were a much better football team than we thought. Tua got injured, and then questions became, okay, they gave up everything to have all these first-round picks. The Dolphins did. What are they going to do with them in terms of fixing the quarterback situation? Now, Tua, we know he's declared. If he's healthy, that makes things a lot easier for them going forward. They can build a franchise around him. I will be interested to see if he does play in the 2020 season, though. Tua said he thinks he will. He hopes he will. We'll see. But I think this is overall a step in the right direction for what the Dolphins hope to accomplish in the offseason.
We're going to get to Barrett in just a moment because I want to ask him about how this affects the Alabama quarterback situation moving forward with Tua's brother specifically, who's still currently in the fold. But, Pete, I thought the most interesting thing that Tua said, other than that he's going to the NFL, is that none of the doctors can tell the foreseeable future right now, that at this point things look okay, but they really won't know for another month or two how he's really progressing.
And he was very candid about that. Usually a kid will come on and say, oh, I'll be fine by the time the regular season rolls around. He didn't say that. So obviously they have to go through the whole process. He mentioned the 3-month, 4-month window to see if he's truly healed. This is a major injury, and teams are going to dissect him. He's going to go to the combine. Every team is going to put him through the ringer up there. You know, when they go back and do the medical recheck, which they do after the combine for a lot of guys when they don't pass it at the combine, he's going to go through every test possible. Remember, this is a hip injury. These are very serious injuries. We saw Bo Jackson, right? His career was ended by a hip injury. There's always that possibility. Now, they say this isn't the same exact hip injury as that, but we don't know until he gets the medical check.
Likening it to an injury sustained in a car accident. Ryan Wilson has him right now going number 5 to the Miami Dolphins. Where do you evaluate him at this point? Is that too high?
No. if he's cleared medically, and look, if he's not cleared medically, anything is too high for him in the first round by my standards. If he's cleared medically, I think that's a good spot. But you know what else could become in play there is the Detroit Lions at number 3. Not to draft him, but somebody go up to that spot and get him and make a move. So I think there's going to be a lot of jockeying depending on the medicals. If the medicals are good, this is a Russell Wilson, Drew Brees kind of quarterback. I think he's got he's a shorter quarterback. He's got the intangibles you like. He can make all the throws. I think if he's healthy, he's a top 5 pick, and a team that gets him is going to be very happy if they do.
A lot of question marks with the injury, but a higher ceiling, in your opinion, than Joe Burrow, who's expected to go number 1 of the Bengals?
No, I still think Joe Burrow's the higher ceiling guy. I think they're both good. This is a tough, if I were picking and they were both healthy, it would be a tough decision. I'd probably lean to Joe Burrow, but I think Tua's going to be right there with him.
We're going to lean on Barrett Sallee now because we heard Nick Saban come out right away and make the first statements at this press conference, and I think Pete could tell right away that Nick Saban, by what he was saying and the look on his face, that he was going to go pro. So now, Barrett, this leaves Alabama in flux at the quarterback position. Relatively speaking, we saw what Mac Jones did against Michigan in the Citrus Bowl. You got Tua's brother, who's still there, but maybe not to the level of a Tua or even close to the level of his older brother. And then 5-star Bryce Young, who comes in next season.
Yeah, embarrassment of riches in Tuscaloosa. It's crazy that they keep getting all these guys. But, yeah, I mean, Mac Jones, I think, in Tua's stead, proved that he's a capable quarterback. Now, does he have the upside of Tua? Probably not. But Mac Jones was a 4-star recruit. It's not like he was a throw-in. It's not like he's just some scrub off the scout team. And he proved that he could play. Now, in that Auburn loss, he made those 2 bad decisions on those pick sixes. Pretty much everything else he did was fine. So, he's got the experience now. He's going to probably be the number 1 going through fall camp. So that'll help him immensely as well. He's had time as the number 1 before because Tua has been injured in spring practice several times. So I think Mac Jones can handle it. Tua Tagovailoa, still a very good player. We'll see what happens with him. I think in terms of skill set, he's very similar to his brother, certainly not as refined, but he has that kind of ability. And then Bryce Young is the quarterback of the future for Alabama. You saw him in the All-Star game this past weekend. That dude can play, and I think now, based on what Jalen Hurts was able to do, and then now what Tua was able to do, Nick Saban's not afraid to throw a freshman out there. There's no doubt he will do that if he earns the job and earns the trust of the team. So they're in good hands. Alabama right now, even without Tua, I think when you look at what LSU has with Joe Burrow leaving, and when you look at what Georgia might have with Jake Fromm leaving, and then Auburn, we don't know what their offense is going to be. They're still going to be right in the mix for the SEC championship. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me at all if by media days in July, they're picked to win the SEC, even without Tua Tagovailoa.
Get to Ryan Wilson, our draft analyst, and get back to the time frame here for the injury. We still don't know when he's going to be able to step back on the field. It's only been about 7.5 weeks since the injury. The expected recovery time was 6 to 8 months. If that's the case, he wouldn't even be able to do any football activities before the NFL draft, which is in late April. What do you really expect him to do leading up to the draft physically?
Not a whole bunch. I think he can start throwing maybe in a month or so. I have to double check that. But we saw him, he had one crutch at the bowl game against Michigan last week. So it's not like he's already moving around freely. And Pete sort of touched on it. He'll be picked and prodded at the combine. He won't be able to do much else. But there will be every 32 NFL teams will be trying to figure out exactly where he is and where he's going to be. And the thing, and Tua said this, we just don't know with this hip injury. They got it back in place quickly. He had surgery quickly, but it's not often that you have this injury and come back and start playing football 6 or 8 or 10 months later. This isn't an ACL injury where you know how it works in terms of the rehab and the expectations 6 to 10 months down the line. It's a hip injury. Pete talked about Bo Jackson, and it ended Bo Jackson's career. That was 30 years ago. Medicine's obviously improved. This is a slightly different hip injury, but there's still a ton of questions, and we just don't know what type of player he's going to be. And by the way, when he comes back, if he's cleared every hurdle, how is he going to look compared to what we saw last on the field in November against Alabama when he was at Alabama? Is he going to be a different player? Is he going to be rusty? How long does it take to knock all that off? These are all questions that NFL teams are going to have to answer. The Dolphins, for example, could be willing to wait until 2021 and redshirt him, and that's certainly okay too. But right now, we just have no idea what Tua's going to look like by the fall.
And, you know, it can be a team, like Ryan just mentioned, where he's going to sit out the whole year. And that's okay. The thing about this coming out now is the quicker he comes out, the quicker he gets to a second contract. And that's where the money is for an NFL quarterback. If he can get to the second contract quickly, that's better for him. So I understand why he came out. Even if he has to sit out next year, it's the right decision. And if you're a team out there, let's say the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have Nick Foles. They don't know what they want to do with him. They have Gardner Minshew. Are they certain he's the long-term answer? They don't know that yet. So if they decide, hey, maybe we could draft Tua, sit him out, and then play those guys for a year and get rid of Foles and get that contract off the books. That's a possibility. The Miami Dolphins, he mentioned it. That's a perfect example. You keep Ryan Fitzpatrick. If he's not ready, you play Fitzpatrick the whole year, and then you come back and play Tua the next year. I think he's making the right decision, and the team that picks him, even if they don't play him next year, will be making the right decision.
And these are the teams that Pete knows will be interested in a quarterback, with the Miami Dolphins on top of that list. The Bengals, who it seems like, I mean, most mock drafts, including Ryan Wilson, have had Joe Burrow going #1 to the Bengals for the last, I don't know, month and a half or so. And Ryan has the Dolphins taking to a #5 in his latest 2020 mock, which you can find on the website, cbssports.com. One more question to Barrett Sallee as we wrap things up on Tua. Nick Saban said at the start of this press conference that few, if any, have impacted the program more on and off the field than Tua Tagovailoa. What is his legacy going to be at Alabama?
Well, he's a legend. There's no doubt. I mean, because of what he did for the national championship back a couple of years ago, yeah, we all remember him for that. But before that, he had brought that team together. I mean, he was one of those guys that, you know, all the players knew before that national championship game that he was a star. He was a guy that I think set the tone for that program, not only during his time, but beyond, for the culture of competition, because that's what Nick Saban has preached. That's why he sacks 5-star on 5-star on 5-star, because everybody needs to fight for their job 365 days a year, not just when you have a roster move or roster attrition. So I think Tua sort of embodied what exactly Nick Saban wants, not only in a quarterback, but every single player in that program. And then from a faith standpoint, again, you know, the sense of being down to earth and having, you know, a full, you know, sort of conscious of who you are and what you want to be and how to treat people. All those things, I think, really permeated throughout the Alabama program over the last couple of years.
You know, we're all caught up in the medicals, and I get it, and that's going to be the big thing for him. But from a football standpoint, the one thing that we're looking at right now is he should thank Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield. And when you look at them, years ago, they would have never considered a 6-foot quarterback this high in the draft. And it's changed. The game has changed. Old school guys like me who liked our pocket passers at 6'4", standing in there making the throws, we've come to the realization that this game has changed, and that's why a guy like this can go this high.
Yeah, we haven't even heard anybody say that Tua is too short. Maybe we will moving forward now that he's officially entered the NFL draft, but 6 feet, that's taller than a lot of the good young quarterbacks in the NFL right now. So again, to recap, Tua Tagovailoa announcing today that he's entering the 2020 NFL draft. He says he's optimistic that he can play in the 2020 season. Our thanks to Pete Prisco, Ryan Wilson, who has a new mock draft out with Tua going #5 to the Miami Dolphins, and Barrett Sallee covering this from a college angle here on CBS Sports HQ. Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.